You are now listening to the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Welcome to the Sleepover Retro Countdown Show, where nostalgia competes for the top spot. Brought to you by Sleepover Trading Company. Be kind, rewind your childhood, and proudly part of Someone's Favorite Productions network.
Each episode, your hosts, Rob and Guido, normally bring you 5 picks from deep in the analog archives to battle it out and build the ultimate top 10 list. But today, we're joined in that countdown by a special guest. We are interviewing Ryan Verrill, founder of not only Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network, but the Disc Connected, a physical media clearinghouse online that has had many fans over the years it's grown. The editor of the Physical Media Advocate magazine, and most recently, the founder of Antenna Releasing.
Yes, I would say if Howard Stern is the king of all media, then Ryan Verrill is the king of physical media.
I don't know if I'd compare Ryan to Howard. We'll see how he feels about that. But I'm really excited for this interview because I think Ryan is reimagining how people consume movies, and now he's moving into basically every space along the chain, and that's really fun to explore with him. So let's get into the interview. Ryan Verrill, thank you for being here.
Happily, thanks for having me.
I don't even know what title to use for you. You probably have way too many titles, but what's the one you introduce yourself with if someone asks, what do you do?
Way too much, and that's usually what I say. I mean, a title is I'm one of those people. I truly don't care about titles, so it just doesn't mean all that much as long as I get to do what I enjoy doing.
Well, it's that commitment and that generosity that we love about you, and we've loved getting to work with you, and now we love getting to put you in the hot seat a little bit.
It's been a while. I always enjoy doing these and having the reversibility to not have to think of questions, but more improv on my feet of answers, which I miss. I miss doing that.
We see some of the many physical media you have behind you if you're watching the video. Do you document everything? Do you know how many titles you have?
I do try to document everything, but obviously not all databases are perfect, and I'm not crazy enough to have like a spreadsheet that I can update myself. But the document that I have, it says roughly about 10,000, but around probably 1,000 to 2,000 are just not listed. And then I've got things like bootlegs and old DVDs and VHS and laser discs and all that random things just taking up more space in the room. So there's a lot here, probably close to 12,000.
Oh my gosh. And now if a movie comes out in a new format or a new edition, but some of the special features are different, do you keep both copies or you just keep the most up-to-date version?
So I am not a good person to ask about this because I would like to say I don't keep most versions unless there's something very special about it. But the reality is my time has just gotten so worse for me that I don't have the ability to sell or just even donate the old things. So yeah, there's probably 1,500 things here. I'd be totally fine not having any more. But the act of getting them out or listing them or even saying, hey, friends, come pull these out because I have them separated to the side and this is what's available. I can't. I don't have the free mental capacity for that anymore.
Yeah. So as Rob started the conversation, obviously we're talking about physical media. Throughout this conversation, we're going to count down the physical media releases that we would save from a burning building.
We've saved our children and our pets and,
right
first.
The objects, I guess.
Yes, exactly.
And we needed some limiting factor because I think all of us could have chosen a pretty infinite amount, but we went with releases from the last 10 years that we would save. But before we get into our first picks for the countdown, we want to hear about all of the work you do because you are doing so much. And I think one of the first, or the first, you can tell us, is your work with the Disconnected, which is not only an Instagram account, a news site, but also a podcast, a show. It's an umbrella for people who love physical media. So can you tell us about starting that, what it is, everything about it?
Sure. So back in, I think it was 2018 or 2019, I was just loving physical media and started one of these, hey, I'm a collector, here's some pictures account under the name The Disconnected. And it was fine. It was fun. Just lost in the sea of people sharing their collections. Nothing against that. I wasn't trying to be an influencer, wasn't trying to really even garner followers. It was just, I like doing this, may as well share. Why not? And while I was doing that, we had two young kids. Well, still do. That was a weird way to phrase that. We have currently a 9-year-old and an 11-year-old. So way back then, they were much, much younger. And because they were growing and developing, around that time, we found out that both of our kids were going to be diagnosed with autism. The oldest one also diagnosed with ADHD, and immediately trying to be the antithesis of my parents, who did very little to take care of me in that regard. I wanted to take care of them to the fullest of our capabilities. So I had no time for this because we were suddenly going to psychologist appointments and screenings and in-person counseling and 5 different kinds of therapy and whatever is happening. And so 2018 and 2019 were suddenly the busiest times of our lives. And after a couple weeks of sharing a collection, it's not like I was letting followers down by not keeping up with it or anything like that. So it was no big deal. But then the magic time of March 2020 came along, and suddenly everybody's required to stay at home. So I'm not going to therapy what feels like 38 times a week. I'm not taking my kids to all these screenings. They're now visiting with a couple doctors, maybe once or twice a week, only virtually. And that was such a different life for us. Now I'm working from home and suddenly I have all the free time in the world, it felt like, compared to what I had before. So I said, well, let's bring the disconnected back. And so I started doing it. And I don't remember if it was very quick, but I feel like a lot of people just suddenly were starting to look at physical media. People were stuck at home. Streaming didn't feel as special to them. And so it took off pretty quickly. So I started the YouTube side of it, and the podcast came pretty much immediately because if I'm spending time with the video, may as well make it an audio version for people. And fairly quickly, it seemed to be resonating with people. They liked that it was educational and entertaining. They liked that there was actual proper information. It wasn't a lot of misinformation or mistakes being made in the videos. It was literally just the facts, which is what I've always really tried to do.
Yeah.
And then shortly after that time, I started a live show where I did that every single week. I think it was August of that first year. And ever since then, every single Thursday, my life is built around having a live show on Thursday nights to go over all the announcements for the week that are English friendly, have a guest on to discuss them. And those guests coming on led to having interviews for the show. So I was bringing on people from a couple of these labels, or like a big one for me early was Mark from Orbit DVD came on to discuss the announcements and talk about a store and what he was doing. And Orbit kind of really expanded in that first year of COVID as well because they were not online until then. And then, man, they took off like
Yeah.
crazy. So that became big for the disconnected, and suddenly I was getting actual interviews, getting interviews with filmmakers that we were not talking about announcements. We were just spending sometimes half an hour to an hour and a half to discuss their contributions to film and physical media. I was getting people that are contributors, like commentators and visual essayists and producers and owners of these labels and what have you, and it just became a thing. People started to look to the interviews. There was breaking news in those, and that led to more and more opportunities for things like the Shelf Shock Rewind Awards that I've done for a handful of years now. That led to meeting all these people that have led to things that we're going to talk about later in the conversation. That just became a big part of my life, and it literally all started because of this silly Instagram account that I started
Yeah.
years ago.
You mentioned therapy for your kids. Was there a therapeutic element to doing this for yourself, especially during COVID when there was this sense of the unknown happening?
I'm curious. The name, obviously, it's fun for a number of reasons, but the name made me think about Rob's question also, like what level of this had to do with building connection at any point, or was that just a fun name?
There's a lot that goes into branding, and I've always been somebody that's real big on branding. So yes, the name means a lot to me. I'm a big fan of discussing these idea of third spaces. Funny enough, I was a psychology major in college myself, and so a lot of the act of community and of finding like-minded individuals that are non-judgmental, that are supportive of your major hobbies, that are, going to be somebody that you can look to for a sense of mentorship if you need to, has always been something that I feel like these up and coming generations right now are truly lacking. I mean, you look at our parents, or, even when I was younger, there was plenty of places where I would have home and school, or home and work, but also a third place. I would, be at a movie theater every Friday night. I would have traditions where I would be at a friend's house for a movie and pizza and a sleepover every Friday night. It's like something about that was always a sense of belonging, somewhere that I feel like I could go. And so much in the last, I don't know, 5 or 8 years, we've just straight lost that. People are so stuck at home and at work and exhausted outside of that these third spaces online are really sort of that, what feels like the last bastion of what can we do to not lose our humanity in just
Mhm.
isolation and work. And I have always tried to make the disconnected feel like that for everybody. I mean, the amount of these online groups that are, not welcoming or not accepting of
Yes.
different demographics, or, I mean, just straight racist or bigoted or misogynist,
Mhm.
or, anti new people into a hobby. All of those things are just so immensely off putting to me that I have done my best to moderate and out loud speak out when somebody does that, and not like shame them publicly, but also say, hey, we don't really do that here. By the way, I'm glad you're here. You're welcome. We want you to stay and talk and be, included. And so, no stupid questions. I'm not going to make you sound like an idiot, but I am going to recognize you. I'm going to call you out during my live stream. I'm going to say, hey, let's talk about, you're new to collecting. What is our recommendations for buying a new
Mhm.
Blu-ray player, something like that. And I personally, like, selfishly, I feel like we've really delivered on that promise. I think it's one of the best communities out there for being involved and allowing for, expansion of tastes.
Yeah, and I think even some of the most inclusive communities that are out there, still, when it comes to reviewing products, reviewing movies, they can still tend to be so negative. And I know,
Yep.
like, both Guido and I reviewed movies in our high school newspapers growing up. And now I really can't imagine having that job now, because
Yeah.
I just can't think of being negative and poo-pooing something that someone spent so much time and effort to, and also realizing that just because I don't like it doesn't mean it's not for somebody else.
I think
Yeah.
that's the thing. This is why we were meant to find each other all, and I think why we all resonated with each other when we first met and encountered what you were doing, because in the comic book space, we felt the same way. We started our Dear Watchers podcast during COVID, and the connections we had with people who also, like you, felt a rising tide lifts all boats, that there's
Yeah.
room for everyone to join in, and we're not in competition. We're all trying to build this love of things, because ultimately this love of things connects us to other people who love these things. It's really a spectacular thing. And on the note Rob is making, I remember it was after a few years of doing the podcast, Comic Con started coming back again, which is my happy place, my happiest place of the
Hmm.
year, all year, anytime. And I remember going and realizing, like, all of the manga, all of the anime, all of the webtoon style of comic, that was not for me. And
Yeah.
that doesn't matter. It's
That's
for
okay.
someone. Someone loves it.
Mhm.
Everything doesn't have to be for me. And we try that on our Dear Watchers show, and we certainly try that with now Sleepover and the work we do both in the store and with screenings, and also this show. It's like the point is to talk about what sparks joy for us,
Yeah.
what resonates with us in story. We'll talk about what doesn't resonate with us, but that
Yeah.
doesn't make it bad.
Yeah.
That doesn't make it not
Or
worthwhile.
tell your partners and friends, your brutal negative opinions, maybe,
Yeah.
but you don't have to put them beyond your immediate circle of people.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And you're doing that all the time, just celebrating things. I mean, because at the end of the day, what's true of physical media is true of comics, is true of toys. it's
Mhm.
it's the stories. There's
Right.
something about all these stories that we love and connect to, and that's really powerful.
And then how much work goes into, because I imagine a lot, goes into the actual research around here's all the special features that are going, because one thing I do love about what you're doing is the factual base, the kind of almost
Yeah.
investigative journalism. I'm like, here's everything that's going into it. Does that take a lot of time for you to kind of grab all those details?
Yeah, I mean, it's been on an uptick recently, which is really funny to me. We've had a bunch of people message over the years that have said, "Hey, there's this mistake here. Something's wrong with like your algorithm." And they'll use words like that or with your program or something. And I have to say, "No, I'm literally copying and pasting every single fact that goes onto these myself. I'm not using a tool. I'm not and I'm by the way, I don't know if we said this. I'm doing this on 4 different social media platforms for every single announcement that goes out there. So we are posting on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter still, and Blue Sky. And every single one gets every announcement. Every single one gets high res photos. Every single one. I mean, even Blue Sky, which has a character limit of 300 characters per
Yes.
post. I'm posting like the Severn announcements that get 10,000 characters and copying and pasting until there's a chain of literally
Yeah.
like 70 different Blue Sky posts all connected to each other. So yeah, that's happening for everything. So things like the OCN announcements on the first of every month, I'm carving out about 3.5 hours of my time every month, knowing that I'm
Mm.
going to be posting announcements. It is a ton of time. It is where I know where to look for announcements. I know when to post announcements. I have literal calendar reminders to say, nope, you're busy on this day at this time. No matter what you're doing, you will be doing disconnected work at that time.
Well, the care you put into it shows because even pre the era of AI, which if you start using AI, more power to you, like it'll probably help facilitate some of what you're doing. But even before that, there was so much just slop on the internet with these
Yep.
kinds of
Oh,
things.
yeah.
You'd see press releases that are just copied and pasted and are missing a lot of
Yep.
information, these aggregate sites. Then you have people, of course, who are doing the opposite. They're making stuff up and they're posting about it. And so it's just like you parsing that was always difficult, and you help make it easier.
I'm glad. Literally the entire point. I see so much love for film from so many of these companies that I did literally desired this, which is why I did it. Is I wanted one resource to be able to say what is the actual correct information, listing all of the announcements so I do not miss anything. But the big thing is I can just go scroll back through it. It's literally an archive of all of the announcements. And right
Mhm.
now, you could go on the Instagram for the disconnected and scroll. I mean, it's going to take you forever, but you
Yeah.
could scroll back to March of 2022 and see what was literally being announced that year and that month and that week and that day and see what the companies have evolved doing. And that sort of thing to me
Mm.
is exciting. It's a lot of work to do, but it's quite useful in the grand scheme of things.
And are there a lot more announcements? Are there a lot more releases than when you started this really in
Mm.
2020?
I mean, it's changed in a few ways. One is my scope. At the earliest parts of it, I was really only trying to do like US and the big companies, and eventually I said, well, I mean, I this is kind of just favoritism at this point. And so that my whole brand and identity is to try to be inclusive. So the only thing I don't cover nowadays is things that are not English language friendly. And if I could, I would. My big thing is I can't verify the information there
Right.
accurately because
Mm.
I am mostly monolingual. I can speak some Spanish, but very poorly. And so I don't trust myself to do it right. If I could, I mean, Disconnected would be full of literally every release in the world that's coming out on home video. And the crazy thing is, I still track a lot of those myself. I just don't share it because I can't put like my reputation behind it, which is what I see myself doing for everything else. It is I want
Mm.
to stand behind what I am posting fully.
And is it possible to know if there are overall in the market more physical releases coming out? Because on one hand, you have companies like Netflix that have like pulled back more than they were
Right.
10 years ago. On the other hand, you have lots of more boutique labels, one of which we'll talk about a little later, that are doing more releases now. So where does all things fall in terms of number of physical releases out there in the world?
It's a great question. I mean, it's an industry that has cycles like any other, and so compared to I don't know, 2004 at the height of the DVD when you could walk into a Best Buy and see Anchor
Oh,
Bay
yes.
releasing 5 versions of The Evil Dead one week and, studios releasing 20 titles a week, literally, for some of those studios. It was a wildly different time. Now, compared to 2019, I think there's a little column A, little column B here. Some things have greatly increased, some things have decreased, some things are at a unique point because we've seen companies literally come and go in that time since then. But the reality is, the last time I counted, which at this point it's been about 18 months, and back then there was what I counted as active boutique labels in the world, about 150 at that time. Now, since I did that count, I only know of maybe 1 or 2 that have closed their doors, and probably about 8 to 15 that have opened. So, more companies, but are all companies putting out more releases? Not necessarily.
Right.
Some of them are either way less active or they've had to slow down because of certain things. We could break into every aspect of this industry that has changed it. I mean, manufacturing alone is tough right
Right.
now because like been a shortage of 4K UHD discs, and people like with the studio releases, people thinking that certain things are selling out because of FOMO, but the reality is they're just selling out because of demand. A lot of these they come back a few months later, but the heat has died down, so not as exciting to talk about. But I mean, the reality is we are seeing an increase. People that are especially younger generations excited about this, understanding the reasons for physical media against streaming, all against the government, against censorship, against so many different reasons. A lot of people are picking up things. It's a little odd to me that many of those things are VHS or DVD when we know that we have higher quality things. That being said, they are a lot cheaper. So I do get
Yeah.
that. And if you just want a copy of, I don't know, Honey, I Blew Up the Kid, you can't get that on Blu-ray right now. And so, sure, a DVD or a VHS will suffice.
Yeah. Some of the new VHS, which rivals 4K in their pricing, depending on how.
That is true.
Yeah. Not in the
how
video
boutique
quality.
they are.
Right?
Not
It's in the
video
pricing.
quality, but in the pricing, yes, they can be.
Well, and I will absolutely be a hypocrite here who will say I am releasing stuff on VHS later this year. So, yeah.
And we are carrying it in
Yes.
store. So let's get to our first pick. You guys can pick whatever order you want to put them in. I'm going chronologically, but that also happens to be favorite to least. So you guys do what you want. But Ryan, why don't you start us off with the first thing you're grabbing in this burning building?
This is my main nostalgia pick. I chose this, and it's going to be ridiculous because it's fairly new, and a lot of people did not get a chance to get it, and blah, blah, blah. That being said, a lot of us, we love horror, we love cult, we love genre titles, and my favorite franchise growing up was not one that was seen as the favorite of many of my peers. A lot of people worshipped Halloween. I love the original Halloween. I love a few of the sequels. I kind of think most of them are pretty bad, to be honest. I love the character of Michael Myers, so it's fine. Like I love those, but then there's things like Friday the 13th. Not necessarily my jam. It's not my favorite. It's not the one that I grew up watching a lot of. The one that I grew up watching a lot of. And so the first thing I'm rescuing is this incredible 4K Steelbook box set of A Nightmare on Elm Street. And this thing was released by Warner Brothers last year, came and went very quickly. Most collectors that wanted it were upset to find out that it went on sale on Amazon at like 1 o'clock in the morning, and it was literally sold out within like 48 hours. And so a lot of people never got a chance to get it. A lot of people were able to get the UK version. That being said, I'm so glad I got my copy. I love the collection, and the big thing for me is like the old Blu-ray set looked awful. They were never remastered. It was literally not even an upscale. It was just like a porting over, maybe even the old VHS scans. I don't remember. They were pretty rough. I would imagine they were at least the scans for the DVD or something. But they all look incredible, and there's most of the special features from over the years are on there. There's nothing new, but it's a studio title that's really well done with all the original poster art. I kind of have very little complaints. It's pretty much amazing, so it had to
And
be
are
up there.
you a Steelbook fan? Because Guido's a Steelbook fan. I don't really care about them one way or the other, but for you, is that a big plus?
So I was a Steelbook person up until about 2020 or 2021, especially when you could get brand new ones at Best Buy for like $18.99 on release
Mhm.
day and go in and the excitement of finding the one without the damage. It sucks that we have to say
Mhm.
that. And like actually trawling through really great art. Or back then, I was doing things like importing the Mondo X Steelbooks from Germany and France and Italy that were coming out. And it had these amazing pieces of art that, posters were made in the US, but they were never on the physical media. And so we were getting these just beautiful releases of these movies. Nowadays, I mean, they're heavy. I'm not in store being able to purchase most of them, so you have to deal with shipping, so they get dinged up a lot.
Yeah.
The art has gotten to me a lot less boring because they're making so many more steelbooks. And so while I would say I'm not inherently a steelbook guy anymore, there's probably about 850 of them in this room. So I love them when they're done right and for a reason, but I would say most movies do not need a steelbook, and if we can make them cheaper, they shouldn't be in a steelbook. So
So they're a firewall in this hypothetical of a burning building. Your
Yes.
steelbook
exactly.
wall is keeping you
Yeah.
safe.
Well, I was thinking it's very poetic that Freddie died in a fire and now you're
Yep.
rescuing him from it.
Have to. Robert Englund can come with me. Yep.
I love it. All right. My pick is the He-Man and She-Ra Eternia collection. This was a
Nice.
2022 German release on Blu-ray. First time the series is on Blu-ray, official license, and proper remaster. So they actually did bring those original Filmation cells to just the best quality imaginable. They fixed some audio issues that existed on the previous sets, which I had and loved, and they ported over almost every single special feature from every previous set. And so we're talking about 2 series, hundreds of episodes, the Christmas special, Secret of the Sword. They put on the Power of Grayskull documentary, which is a fantastic kickstarted documentary that is in there. And it's 20 discs in a beautiful big green box. They did reproductions of posters, reproductions of the German comics. It's just a beautiful set that was limited. And luckily, Rob works, neither of us, Sleepover Trading Company is our full-time job yet. And Rob works for a company where there are a lot of international people. So I was like, can someone in Europe please receive this shipment for me and then mail it to me? And they were able to do that. So I got it when it came out. And it is, of course, highly sought after and very hard to find. Although now we do finally have both Steelbook and 4K versions of the Filmation cartoons coming out in the US. But this set is precious to me.
Released by Turbine Media, who over the years have put in a lot of incredible work for titles that likely couldn't get licensing in the US. And so they are one that I highly recommend people pay attention to. And then secretly, they also are usually English subtitled. It's not something that they always advertise, but a lot of those German companies are, hey, we're going to sneakily put in some English subs because they're licensing wise, they're usually not supposed to.
I know that's what I was worried about, and I was buying it regardless. But yes, it actually has like a dozen languages, a dozen subtitles, so you can really experience it in every way. It even has like the German commercials, which are of course fun to see in amongst the US commercials. So yeah, I'm saving that even before the dogs.
Incredible.
I will go with my one and only VHS pick, which is the Mandy VHS from Witter Entertainment that came out in 2018. They did a number of different covers. I think I have them all, including the clamshell that I got Bill Duke to sign at a convention. But the one I want to specifically save is the Cheddar Goblin cover. Do you know this one, Ryan?
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks just like a Kraft macaroni and cheese box. It's a big box like that, and it's got the Cheddar Goblin, and it's got all the cheese, and it actually has a yellow VHS inside. And I am obsessed with all things Cheddar Goblin. I have a Cheddar Goblin stuffed animal, and it's such a small little bit from this weird movie that really took off and has a life of its own. So I just love that. And I had one in our store, and people were like, "What is that? Is that a tape?" Yeah.
And this is limited, right?
Yeah, it's pretty limited. I think it is still available on their site. Actually, I think they brought it back recently. The original run sold out, but I believe as of this recording, Witter does still have some versions of that and some of the other ones they've done as well.
That's a solid choice. The marketing that they've done behind Mandy has been amazing. I will say their releases have been stupendous, and yeah, good choice.
Yeah.
All right. So you moving on from the disconnected, though never moving away from it, but moving on from the genesis of all of this, you then turn that into so much more. You started the podcast network that we're a part of, Someone's Favorite Productions. You have a physical magazine, which of course speaks to all of our love of physical media, and we carry in store proudly the Physical Advocate magazine. So talk about how you then launched all these projects as extensions of what you were doing.
So in early 2023, we were talking, my now collaborative partner and I, who is Dr. Will Dodson. He's on my show once a month, the first Thursday of every month. And we were just kind of like pitching random ideas back and forth to each other simply because we liked working together. And we had only started doing stuff that previous fall. And one of the things was, like collaborative supplemental features or a collaborative way to increase what we're doing that would make us look appealing to some of these companies. And right around this time, we reached out to a company that had put out a call on Twitter for somebody that, hey, if you're interested in doing an audio commentary, we're looking for somebody for a title. Will and I, at the same time, were both messaging this company saying we would be willing to do it with the other person, unbeknownst to us that we had both seen the tweet and we were both messaging them. And the guy that runs the company was like, "What are you doing? You both just could have emailed me together." And we're like, "Oh, we genuinely had no idea this was happening." And so that somehow we got passed up by that first one, but they said, we know you guys. Like, yeah, let's do something else." And so we got pitched a different title that, funny enough, was a better title for us to do for our interest. And at that point, we started researching for this commentary. We recorded that in August of 2023, and we were suddenly off to the races. By this point, I had started producing discs for TerraVision, and so putting my own thumb on the scale, I could say, well, we could do one, and they were taking a chance on us. We got a couple films that first summer as well, both in 2023, and ever since then, we just started doing all these supplemental features, and eventually it went, well, these people that were working with us supplemental features, a lot of them have podcasts. I know the podcast world. I know a lot of these people. And so by that fall, we launched the podcast network, which is now, crazy enough, over 30 shows on the network, most of them relating to film or physical media in some way. And we are still expanding. There's still, I believe, at least 2 shows premiering brand new first episodes ever coming out on the network in the next, I think, 60 days. Both of them will be out. We have grown leaps and bounds since then. And the name that you brought up is kind of indicative of the kind of person I am. Is, we had talked about the naming for the Disconnected. Someone's Favorite Productions is because one of my, I hate to use the term catchphrase, but on my show, like, people used to get tired of me saying every single movie is someone's favorite movie. It doesn't matter if it's your neighbor, you, the person that made the movie, because the director worked on it for 8 years and it's his passion project. It is someone's favorite movie. And so like we said earlier, I try not to just straight dog a movie because it's bad or something like that. I really only enjoy talking about things that I like. And I can critique things. I'm not, inherently flawed in that I can't say I don't like this. But if every single movie is someone's favorite movie, that means they all have merit. They all have something that is worth speaking on. And I have tried to approach shows to be on the network that have that same mindset. And inherently, that doesn't always happen. There are shows that are happy to say, well, this is just not good. I don't like that. And that's totally fine. But it's led to this very inclusive and welcoming podcast network. And I think that we've done great to expand on that throughout the years. We're not like necessarily trying to grow because this doesn't make any money. This isn't something that is any of that for any of us. It's literally just a group of like-minded people that can help each other and be a community of sorts to make this very insular world expand. And while I was expanding, one of the things that I did was I took a class of sorts online through another company and through another podcasting group that a lot of people have heard of called The Projection Booth. And Mike White is the host over there. And he put on a little movie podcasting class that was about 10 weeks long. And one of them was about a Patreon and what could you do with the Patreon? What are some ways that you could do to expand your Patreon if you have one? And one of the things they brought up was a newsletter. And I went, that's kind of a cool idea. Like each company in physical media has their own newsletter, but there's nothing that captures sort of everything, but also brings in actual art to it, or discussion, or writing, or something fun. It's always just buy our stuff. And I
Mhm.
get why that's necessary, but there's so much more to this industry than just buying or collecting. And so being the, pardon the pun here, the advocate that I am for this entire industry, I was looking at things and said, well, I'll make a newsletter, make it part of my Patreon and see if that works. And this first one was 6 pages of a PDF. That was it. 6 pages, just a couple little pieces of writing, just some ideas, some fun things going on, some pictures, and people loved it. It was digital only sent to like 20 people on my Patreon, something like that. And they were like, well, this is great. You're going to be putting one out at least every month now, right? And I went, oh God, why did I do this? And so I started to do that. The second one was like 10 pages, something a little more big, just because there's actual merit to what I'm doing. Let's expand it a little bit. And those first few months, I started getting comments, and people were like, well, when can I buy like a paper version of this? I would love to be able to have this in my hand to be able to write on, take notes. And I went, that's not happening. I don't have that capability. It's not even something on my radar. And I started to look into like print on demand things. What is the current landscape like? And there's a page limit. If things are, I think it's 24 pages or more, you can go and have something printed by like an Amazon or a Barnes and Noble or some of these other places. I was nowhere near 24 pages. So I went, okay, I have an excuse. I don't ever have to do this. And then, of course, by like the fourth one, it was like 26 pages. And I went, well, crap. Now I have no excuse. It has just continued to grow. I was not doing it every month at this point. It was about every, I don't know, 45 days. And I said, well, by the next one, let me see if I can do it. And so I went out and commissioned an actual artist to make a cover for it. And we printed an issue of the Physical Media Advocate magazine. And people went crazy for it in a minor way. This does not sell like thousands of copies or anything every month, but more than 15 people bought it. And I went, oh, like, okay, this people actually have a desire for this sort of thing. And they did go so far as to like express that they read it and things that they liked. So it wasn't just a placating thing to support me, which is something I'm always nervous about. Like, I don't want to put something out there and just make people feel obligated to support. So over the years, we've grown it. And now suddenly we are 3 years into this. And I can't believe I'm saying this. We are working on our 31st printed issue of the magazine right now. And it is for sale in 4 different countries in stores. It is for sale on Amazon worldwide. We have a number of subscribers through my Patreon that get it every single month. You can pick it up digitally. You can pick it up in paper form. Each form kind of has their own benefits. The digital form, I go through the trouble of every single image and like mention of somebody's podcast or something. They all have links embedded in the digital version. So some people actually buy both so that they can get the links to everything.
Uh-huh.
It
Wow.
is so much work to do every month. I thankfully have somebody helping with layout now, but it's only grown. Every month I'm struggling to keep it about 45 to 50 pages because we get so much in. We're now getting like pretty decent exclusive interviews. We just posted this big piece on Jackass to celebrate the new movie coming up for our Pride issue. But what I haven't revealed for everybody is we have an exclusive with a Jackass cast member, an interview coming out in one of the next 2 issues. So that'll be incredible. Our July issue is going to have an exclusive interview with people that are writers, directors. We've had people that run these physical media labels actually come in and write pieces for the magazine because they want to contribute themselves. And it's just been crazy to see. And yeah, custom artwork on every single issue. It is grown by leaps and bounds. We have people all over the world contributing every single month. Our Pride issue also, we have somebody in Germany that went to the filming locations of Kenneth Anger's Lucifer Rising and recreated scenes from the film that are in the magazine. Well, who else is doing that? Especially on
Yeah,
a monthly
exactly.
basis. I'm so like honored that people even care enough to not just read it, but to contribute and want to make it exciting and better and crazy. So yeah, that's the magazine. Here we are.
Well, that's the incredible thing about both the podcast network and the magazine is they're such natural extensions of everything you do and care about. If you think about getting the start in terms of producing special features for these physical media releases, one of the things that all of us who consume those things love are the essays, and they come with books and the commentaries and the interviews and the featurettes. And you've found a way to build those things out. So the podcasts are featurettes, they're interviews,
Yeah.
they're the supplemental audio features. And then the magazine does have all this incredible analysis in addition to the news and reviews. And so you found a way to take those booklet essays and turn them into a monthly publication. So it's really makes so much sense as a fan how all of these things fit together for people who like any part of this world.
I also think, and not to sound super capitalist or anything like that, but in terms of selling these things, I don't think the secret is reaching as many people as possible, as wide of an audience as possible. You want to reach the right people.
It's true.
And so it doesn't matter your total impressions if the impressions that you're making are with the people who are super dedicated and passionate about that. And I think a lot of people just hearing how the magazine has grown over the course of 31 issues, as well as all your other projects, realize that too. Oh, I can access the audience that really cares about this. I don't need to access the person who is never going to buy a DVD, Blu-ray in their life.
I'm also a bit of an idiot. Like, I don't care to make money off of these things, so I'm literally basically selling them at cost. I literally lose money printing this every month. Not kidding whatsoever. So we are hoping to bring on like some advertising from some of these companies so I can at least not go bankrupt. But it is a point. Right, at some point. But, just to be able to say, like, we're partnered with stores like your own and Scarecrow Video and Videodrome in Atlanta, and we're at like 15 or 16 stores in the US, and so many of them I have, people that have made memories in those stores. Scarecrow Video in Seattle, I've now visited in person and had like broke bread with the owner of Scarecrow Video and the people from the board and spent time pitching ideas to them and worked with them and had them on my show. And just to be so collaborative with literal institutions in this industry and be welcomed into it is mind-blowing to me. I never imagined anything like this would have been possible, and now it's my everyday life, and I feel so honored and fortunate to have that opportunity.
Do you have a favorite movie magazine outside of your own out there?
From days past, from present, or both?
Or present, that something that you pick up or you subscribe to?
I mean, it's a very basic answer, but I've always loved Fangoria, like all of us. I'd like to say it's my favorite, but I mean, nowadays I think it's the only one I still subscribe to theoretically. But the other big thing is Video Watchdog. Tim Lucas and his work from back in the day was just astonishing. And I don't have all of them, but I have many Video Watchdogs still. And I gotta be honest, the fact that I am in 2026 still going back for research purposes into Video Watchdog shows the importance and legacy of printed media. That it's such an important part of everything still.
Mm-hmm. I'll give a shout out. I think my favorite on the market right now is Rue Morgue. I think Rue Morgue does some really great work because I love the combination of long form interviews and talking about the current releases, but I am a sucker for the capsule review. I love talking about podcasts, talking about music, having it all be in there, and then also them doing a deep dive into maybe a 19th century author for some reason. And they're also doing great work in terms of expanding beyond the magazine into standalone books as well. So I think they're probably my favorite publishing right now.
I probably shouldn't say it, but I actually work with Rue Morgue behind the scenes on some things. So yeah, I'm a big fan. I hold back stuff like that. So yes.
So in addition to the bonus swipe of a couple issues of the Physical Advocate magazine getting saved out of the building, what is the second physical media release that you are saving out of the building?
Well, again, these are going to feel like self-promotion for these last two, but since we did just talk about starting to work on special features, my next pick is the Severin 4K release of Spider Labyrinth, and this is big because this is the first disc that came out with our bonus features on it. And so, near and dear to my heart for many reasons, this is the one that started everything for us. And it's kind of crazy because we were able to do the audio commentary on the disc. We were able to do a visual essay that is a really unique, sort of like mix of interviews and narration that is a unique piece on just the weird. If you've never seen Spider Labyrinth, it is a very weird movie. It feels adjacent to like Lovecraft in a way and more practical effects than most films could even dream of having. I love the movie. I am a big fan of it. Always loved Severin, and so to have them be the first one that released one of our pieces, man, I don't think I could ever get rid of this disc.
Is that still in print or is it out of print?
Oh, it's definitely still in print, and beyond that, I believe our stuff was also featured on the German Wicked Vision release of Spider Labyrinth
Oh.
after the 7 release came out. So our stuff is available to all kinds of different people, Region A, Region B, and it's
You
still
don't have the German release?
I don't know.
Oh.
They are not as kind with contributor copies going across the pond when you didn't make it for that release. So,
Right. Yeah.
Well, I will Severin you with a Severin.
yeah.
So my next pick is All the Haunts Be Ours, a compendium of folk horror. That's the 15-disc Blu-ray box set from Severin in 2021. My thinking here was if all our other Blu-rays and DVDs and VHS, as well as our Plex server, have gone up in the fire, I'm gonna want 30 hours.
This will entertain us for
100
quite a
hours of
time.
movies to rely on while I rebuild the collection. And I'm choosing this, but both of us have only really scratched
the surface.
the surface of this.
Of volume 1 and 2.
Yeah, we have both volumes. Volume 1 has a couple of real favorites. I'm a huge fan of A Field in England, and then also Robin Redbreast, which we discovered, which was really great, creepy. And we've only kind of watched some of the ones mostly in the English language, and we need to kind of go into some of the other ones as well. I love Keela's work on this and how international it is, and then of course talking about there's supplemental features upon supplemental features. Almost every movie also has a short film as well.
Yeah, it's like a museum piece. And
Literally.
that's one of the extraordinary things is that you can pick a disc and you can just enjoy Robin Redbreast, but then if you dig in, you're going to find out more about the director, and there's going to be an essay, and then
or their short film that they might have made.
Or like a student film that the director made in 1968, and like it has so much. It's so well curated. It's so carefully curated, and just achieves something I think very few sets achieve, quite honestly.
Secretly, this is maybe my favorite box set ever made for physical media. So I was this close to picking it instead of Spider Labyrinth. I guess I got selfish there. Yeah, if you've not watched it yet, Eyes of Fire, highest recommendation.
I need to watch that one. Yeah.
And then for those that have never seen it, the documentary Woodland Dark and Days Bewitched is so amazing from this box set.
I just actually recently put it on while I was working as well
for a second
viewing because it is just so good. And then with the recitations of the poetry that are interspersed throughout it, it's such a great deep dive into folk horror.
Well, now when all of our buildings burn down, we'll have to hang out in person, and you can share in watching All the Haunts Be Ours. Since it's the last copy also in this hypothetical world. Well, I'm picking for my second pick a 2025 release from Shout Factory that is a 4K of one of my favorite movies of all time, Cloud Atlas.
Ooh, interesting.
In addition to my love of the movie, I really tried to focus on releases that weren't just the things I love. Granted, I love He-Man and She-Ra, and I love Cloud Atlas, and I love my third pick. But this one, what is so cool about it is this movie was known as a flop. It is, I think, still mixed and misunderstood by critics, certainly. I think audiences really gravitated to it, but didn't know what to make of it. And so here we are, almost 15 years later, and Shout Factory puts together a 2-hour documentary featuring everyone from the movie except Halle Berry.
And Ben Whishaw, he wasn't.
And Ben Whishaw.
Yeah.
But Susan Sarandon,
Yeah.
the Wachowskis, Tom Tykwer, David Mitchell, the author of the book, which is my favorite book ever. I mean, it is extraordinary that everyone, Tom Hanks,
And what's really cool
participates
is
in this.
one of the directors or the producer of it was Tom Hanks's stand-in.
Right.
Yep.
Long time, for many decades. So there's some personal anecdotes,
Mhm.
but it's a feature-length documentary about the making of this film that is just, I think, sinfully underappreciated as an ambitious and original piece of art. And so the fact that Shout Factory did this on 4K and produced this new content for it was just incredible to me, just incredible. And I treasure it.
Well, if you lose that standard version, they also just are releasing or about to release a Steelbook. So yay, everybody wins.
The German Steelbook of Cloud Atlas because I could not resist
Nice,
getting every
nice.
version. Yeah. So, all right. So you somehow still have time in your life. And so not only are you still managing the Disconnected and working through the Someone's Favorite Production podcast network and editing and contributing to and putting together the Physical Advocate magazine and probably still working on special features that we don't even know about.
Yep.
But then you go and seem to take the biggest leap that someone could take with Antenna releasing. So tell us about this third phase of your trajectory here. What is Antenna releasing? How did it start and why?
So back in, I think it was March or April of 2023, which was obviously a very big deal year for me because everything happened that year. I interviewed for my show Francis Galuppi. He at the time had directed The Last Stop in Yuma County, which was, I don't want to say like a big hit, but it was taking the indie film world by storm. Like people loved the writing. It was very well acted, had an incredible cast. It's an amazing movie. And my buddy who lives in LA, he's always acted as like a on the ground producer for the Disconnected. And if he goes to some sort of event or screening or something, and he gets the chance to pitch the show to somebody, he will try to say, hey, if you're interested in physical media in any way, we'd love to have you on the Disconnected to have an interview. And he went to talk to Jim Cummings, who is the star of The Last Stop in Yuma County. And Jim said, oh, yeah, I like physical media, but you should really talk to the director, Francis. He adores it. And so Francis was jazzed. He's like, oh, somebody cares about Blu-rays. Yeah, I'll do whatever you want. Let's talk about it. So Francis came on my show, and we talked about his movie for a little while. But to get him talking, like we just discussing physical media, his eyes lit up, which is hilarious to say about somebody who's got a great movie out on the circuit and doing the rounds and everything. And so he got very excited about it. We're talking about, I don't know, like favorite commentaries or something like that. And jokingly, he says, man, should you and I start a Blu-ray company? And I was like, haha, wait, should we? Like, do you want to talk about it? And so after the conversation was done, I said, man, I kind of liked what you said. Like, maybe we should pitch a couple things back and forth. And he's like, yeah, man, hit me up whenever. And as much as he probably thought that was a fleeting thought, that was March or April of 2023. August 2023 comes, and I literally showed up at Francis's house in California. And I went 1,500 miles away from my home here, went to his house, pitched him a full idea for a company. He went, man, this is amazing. This is perfect. This is everything that I would love to see happen, and I'm totally in. I'll support every way that I can. And so Francis and I started from that day forward planning out a company. It's been at this point almost 2 full years since that first conversation. I've been working on this now about 2.5 years from now. And last year, everything got very real. We were, pitching things back and forth for what do we launch with? What are we like let's make some plans on what exactly we can do. And it all came together as a distribution company that is honest, that you can trust, that is in place to make sure that filmmakers get the focus that they deserve and need when they make a film. And the hard part is most other distribution companies are not doing that. I don't know how many people are watching this or familiar with the industry, but there are trapdoors in contracts where filmmakers have gotten screwed over the years. There are, really shady ideas behind recoupable expenses. And so for a lot of contracts, people will sell a film to a distribution company. They'll get a contracted amount of $15,000. And then on the back end, the company has something like $75,000 worth of recoupable expenses that you're not allowed to know what they actually charged for, what you're getting for that $75,000. And so you're actually paying them in the grand scheme of things. Your movie made money. You're not going to get most of that money. It's embarrassing. It sucks. It's terrible. So we're kind of trying to be the antithesis of that. We are doing the exact opposite. We have no recoupable expenses. We cannot charge filmmakers for anything in our contract. The first dollar that comes in, they get a very fair share of that dollar. Some of it goes to us because we are spending money to market your film, but it's a very small amount. And so we are primarily focusing on the theatrical and the physical media experience. We all are also doing digital and all that, but we are primarily a three-headed dragon. We've got myself, we've got Billy Ray Bruton, who has decades of experience in film festivals and programming and theatrical experiences and what have you, and Fran. And Francis has, we'll say, grown in esteem since the last stop in Yuma County. He is literally in New Zealand doing post work on Evil Dead Wrath right now, which, I mean,
Incredible.
I love to be able to say our current partner is directing the next Evil Dead movie right now. That's pretty exciting to say. We've grown our team. We've got some other people on staff that are literally, none of us are getting paid right now. It's all working out of the passion of our own heart because we're still so new. We went public in January. We just had our very first theatrical release, Stolen Kingdom, toured across the U.S., played this wonderful theater called the Community Theater in the Catskills. You might have heard of it. That was one of 23 stops on an in-person roadshow that we funded ourselves, that we scheduled ourselves, that we have moderated Q&As ourselves at every single stop. And to be able to accomplish all of this attached to them being on the Letterboxd Video Store and getting press in People Magazine and the New York Times and the LA Times, and like Josh, the director, is doing an AMA on Reddit. And if you go right now in the movie subreddit, he's like squeezed in between Guillermo del Toro and some other giant name. And I'm like, this is our first film. What is happening? How are we doing this? But
He
I
had someone who drove an hour and a half to come to the screening.
They'd been following the
They had
roadshow.
they had been following
the
the whole
closest
roadshow. They
location.
had gone personally through the Disney college
Hell
program,
yeah.
and they drove an hour and a half to come to. They were talking to Josh after our official Q&A ended. They still had more questions, so that's a good sign that it's resonating with the audience.
That's amazing. I love that. Yeah, we've got. I mean, from now, we've got the next, I think, 13 or 14 months of theatrical releases already scheduled. Our first physical media release will be coming out later this year. And even just scheduling out the amount of releases that I'm planning on, I have about 2 full years of home video releases that I can already schedule and pencil in. The hope is that we might be able to move some of those up because they're, able to be done earlier. And maybe, if people actually buy our stuff, we can afford to do more than one a month, but the plan is one a month. And so it's a lot. I feel like we just grabbed very complementary minds from multiple facets of this industry to come together to form like the Megatron of film distribution. Like we really need sort of different tools in different people's belts all to come together to make it done right. And when you look at what these other companies have done and ruined in the reputations for just film distribution, we just want to do the exact opposite of that. So it's been crazy, lots to cover. Antenna releasing is here to stay though, so check it out.
It is incredible to hear about, and there's so much of it we can talk through, but you said names are really important to you, so tell us about the name.
So antenna releasing is something that I really wanted to make something sort of ubiquitous, I guess is maybe the right word. And my comp for this is always Mondo, and not like the idea of Mondo posters necessarily, but back in like 2014, the company Mondo, they were they were like an umbrella name where Mondo on a Monday could announce a poster of a movie that you love from 1981. Tuesday they could announce that they're partnering with, I don't know, like Alamo Drafthouse to do a theatrical run of a film that they love. Wednesday they would drop like a vinyl action figure, and you'd be like, oh yeah, all these make sense. It's just Mondo. That's what they do. It's this umbrella term. And so antenna releasing, I wanted something like that where I could drop a TV series, I could drop a short film, I could drop a horror movie, I could drop this art house documentary, all these things. And then maybe on a Friday, we announce like a clothing partnership and we put out something, or we sell prints for a film that we love, or we, help sponsor the founding of a video store in Rhode Island or something like that. Like all of those things would make sense, I think, with who we are and what we've set up as a brand. And that is important to me. And of course, there's, the whole metaphor of what an antenna is. It is delivering
Mhm.
transmissions to the world. And so we are going to lean into that branding quite a bit. We've got frequencies that we want to share with people. We've got
Mhm.
signal boosters that we're using to get our marketing out there. We've got a podcast that we are starting for Antenna that will be very much linked into this. And yeah, it does so much to share a message, and that's literally what it is for us.
It's interesting hearing all this too, because you're casting a wider net, and I feel like a lot of the boutique distribution labels, it's almost the opposite in that
Yep.
we only do 70s gay erotica that was shot on video, and that's it. So it's very narrow, which is great because you know exactly what you're going to get from a company like that. But it looks like you've kind of gone more in
Yeah.
the opposite direction.
I mean, for now, yes. I will say that I am one of those idiots. Again, I said it earlier, but I'm one of those people that I'm already planning like sub labels out of our company because I know, especially on home video, people do not want everything for the most part. And so
Mhm.
Antenna will have its mainline films, but we are going to have other things that if you are into some of these other things that I just brought up, you might want to choose to collect all of the spine numbers from this other line that we're going to have. Now, that being said, we're not going to be releasing a ton of stuff. So it's not like like Vinegar Syndrome, where every month there's 4 Vinegar Syndrome titles, and then maybe a VSA and a VSL and a VSU and what all these like. I don't feel the need to release 8 things in a month, and so at most I could see us doing maybe 2 for the foreseeable future at certain points. But if you're not into the very specific line that we had over here, next month there might be something that's
Yeah.
more your style. And I don't expect you to buy everything. So that's the big thing, is the hope that we get a wide range of people following us because we have a wide range of interests. And if you like our taste, you might just like everything. But also, I'm gonna try to subscribe to this 70s erotic shot on video label that I just heard about.
Exactly. Yeah. It's starting now.
Exactly. Exactly. The seed is planted.
Yeah.
But your first release, we obviously talked extensively about on a previous episode because we had the opportunity to sit down with Josh, but it also just works in so many ways with who you are and what you represent because it's about collecting and fan
Hmm.
culture, and it's
Yeah.
about also how we find each other in these subcultures and how we navigate those relationships of community. And then of course it's also, there's tension and drama, and it's a movie in all the best sense of the word, and it's telling a story, and Josh is a young filmmaker, and so you're supporting someone who's really at the beginning of what I'm imagining is going to be a really extraordinary career. And so
Yeah.
it's like it's a incredible first release in so many ways to capture what you're doing. It doesn't pigeonhole you. You're not the documentary label. You're
Hmm.
not the Disney label, certainly. You're not the fandom label. Like, you're none of those things, and you're all of those things.
And for me, I agree, which is why we chose it as the first title. But for a lot of other people, it's kind of the opposite. They really feel like this was an idiotic choice to start with. And we, behind the scenes, we actually heard that
One
a
of
few
those people.
times before we launched. I mean, one of the main reasons you just mentioned it is documentaries. Documentaries right now have not historically been very good choices for most of these
Mm.
companies. And that, obviously home video is one aspect of that, but the other side is even theatrically, a lot of documentaries just sort of fizzle in the theater and people don't want to go see them. But this one, I mean, urban exploring, true crime, Disney, like
Yes.
this is begging to be watched with a large theater, with a large crowd, everybody just, pardon the pun if you've seen the movie, but hooting and hollering at the movie, and it's amazing, and that's why we believed in it. But also, we've been told, like a lot of the films that we've signed have already been told behind the scenes that they are they're great movies, but they're going to be very difficult to market. And in my mind, okay, and that just means you do
Yeah.
something different. I mean, with Stolen
Yeah.
Kingdom, not only have we been able to do so much with the marketing already, but even something crazy like we had an ARG made for Stolen Kingdom, which is a
Yes.
25 level deep puzzle that people are literally starting up online communities to help solve this thing right now. And to me, the nerdy person that I am that's always loved stuff like this, I'm so amazed that for our first film, we've got people clamoring to find Josh in person at events and go, "What's the secret to number 25? How do I help solve this?" And that the fact that this is happening is so funny to me.
Well, it's one of the things too when you approach with such care and love, when you approach these projects with those things. I think it people always say, you always hear it almost seems like it's a platitude or it's sort of trite, this idea of like do what you love and
Yeah.
people will find it. It is true. We have both experienced it as true, both through the podcast, through our own careers. I've written a book of queer mythology. You do what you love, and people will find their way to it. And you, I think, are now also exemplifying that. You're finding these projects that you love and can bring to people. And I think too many people in all all industries, but the entertainment industry in particular, get stuck in the status quo and how things
Yeah.
have been done and how things need to be done and where there's risk and what you can predict from the past. And people aren't just saying, you know what, let's do what we think is going to work and let's try to do it a little differently and see what happens. And you're doing that.
Well, in that way, you were mentioning a little bit of some of the feedback you're getting from the theaters, working with, I think, on the road show, pretty much primarily or exclusively independent theaters, where I think a
Yep.
lot of the kind of scrappiness can be in there.
I will happily say, like, we've already had multiple meetings with Fathom events, and there's some antenna films that you might be able to see at on like 700 screens coming up in the next year. So it's kind of wild, but the doors that have already been opened are unique and incredible, and I'm more than happy to come in and be the difference that sets the future free rather than dealing with the way they've always been done moments, because we have faced far too many of those already, and we've kind of already proven that most of them are kind of BS. We can work around those easily.
Mhm.
And we've heard that so much over the years that we've started to be involved in this world. You mentioned bookers. I remember hearing from an indie theater just about how, yeah, this booker, they knew that theater a longer
Yep.
time, so that theater is going to that movie. They're not going to give it to you because they're, only a couple miles away, and and it's like, wow, that is still how the system works. That is pretty archaic.
Yeah.
I think most people outside this world don't realize just how many of these things that really either shouldn't exist or don't need to exist, these ways of
Right.
working, are still in play. And so I love that you're pushing for change by being an alternative.
Well, and you brought up the word risk, and this is gonna sound like propping myself up, but in all reality, it's just to show how bought in we absolutely are. But about 2.5 months ago now, I walked away from my day job, which was the most comfortable, easy, very stable thing that I've had. I worked for the federal government in the US for almost 17 years, and I walked away 2.5 months ago with not a lot of savings, with not much of a guarantee, and mostly just said, screw it. I am miserable. I hate so much about what I am doing in my professional life. And now I took a risk on myself, and we are able to already see some of that payoff. And now I just hope the monetary side of things catches up in the next couple months, because, oh boy, does my family need some dinner. So,
It is incredible that you took that leap, and I firmly believe you're going to succeed because you already have in countless ways. And so now let's get the financial pickup behind you. We'll
doing my
help out
best.
where we can. All right. So because you can't right now afford to buy a new physical media release, you have to save this third one from this burning building. So tell us, what is this third thing that you're saving?
So I wanted to do one that's a newer release, but also had a lot of nostalgia baked into it for this show specifically. And again, it might seem kind of self-serving because we did do the audio commentary for this disc, but it's a lot more than that. I appreciate your show because you have talked about a lot of things related to animation, and I love animation as well. It is a medium that I don't think gets, not to sound all Rodney Dangerfield about it, but there's not enough respect in 2026 about it. The big thing is we've lost so much of the artistry behind animation. And the thing that I've seen over the last couple of years that really brought it home for me is this beautiful 4K disc of a company that I love, that I work with quite a lot, and that is Deaf Crocodile. This is their release of Felidae. Germans get a lot of love on this episode of your show today, too. This is a German film from 90, I should know this, 93, 94, something like that, that is about cats. And this cat that you see on the cover here is the new cat in town, and there are things happening that are much more adult than you'd expect in an animated movie. There's cat murder, there's cat sex, there's cat like murder mystery investigations happening. It is a wildly inventive movie. The animation is gorgeous, and the first time I saw this, it just hit so home for what the medium itself could do, and I have adored it ever since. I love the work that Deaf Crocodile was able to do on it, and the like exemplification of film restoration and proper archiving of film is why I really wanted to highlight this one, because this film negative, which was from the 1990s, was already about to be rotted. If they had not done the restoration for this when they did, it likely would never have had a chance to get properly restored. And it looks incredible. It was saved, properly archived, and that all means so much to me in my efforts for all of this. So, yeah, Felidae, check it out, from 1993 or 1994, is an amazing movie. Please go seek it out. It is stupendous. Available on 4K Blu-ray from Deaf Crocodile, and I think it's even up for streaming in a couple places. So, good
And
movie.
that's a 2026 release?
No, this one's from 2024, technically, I
Okay.
think, but it was
Okay.
like December 30th of 2024. So this really came out in 2025 for most people.
Incredible. Yeah, neither of us have seen it,
No.
but now on your recommendation, it's going to be at the top of the queue.
It is wild, and I will say the audio commentary on there is a lot of fun. We do a lot of cat puns. We even at some point say meowsification. That's the word. I don't know. Anyways, sadomeowsicism. That's it.
Considering that our store and our screenings are in a town called Catskill that currently has artist-made cats up and down the street,
Yes,
and
and
likes
a cat,
and
an all cat
a
store
cat store.
across the street
Yeah,
from us
this
as well.
movie needs to be front and center,
Yes.
so it will be for sure.
Deaf
So
Crocodile is known as the cat label. They have put out like 5 or 6 animated cat movies, and they continue to expand that. There's literally more coming.
we're gonna definitely have to check those out because we have a few fans in town who I know will like them.
Nice.
So, Rob, what are you saving? What is the last thing you're bringing with
Well,
us?
I'm saving. The movie itself is one of my all-time favorite films, but again, like you said, Guido, I'm saving this more for the special features and the packaging, and this is the Blair Witch Project limited edition 2-disc Blu-ray from Second Sight that came out in 2024. And really, the centerpiece of this, besides the film, which has been beautifully restored from the original film elements, is this amazing, I think, what is it, 5-hour documentary all about the making of the film, really from first kernels of thought through Sundance, through the eventual release. And I think that alone, I've read other books about the Blair Witch Project that Arrow put out a few years ago, but to get this all as this documentary with so many of the original creators involved, it is really fantastic.
Yeah, and the archival footage that they're able to put into it, and just to be able to go so deep, it is incredible. It's such an artifact again.
So, not to glom on to Guido too much, this was one of my like top 6 that I almost chose for today as well. This is an astonishing release. First off, this was released the same month as Felidae, so another little fun thing there. The other thing that came on this is the festival cut, which was not available on home video before that, so that was a big deal. And this is also the first time that the producers and everybody involved with the film were allowed to come in and actually have input, which is why it's such an amazing release. So Absolutely, this gets all of my endorsements. I love this release.
But I'll say that the theatrical cut is better than the festival cut, in my opinion.
It is. I never said it
But
wasn't.
just to have it,
To have
It
it.
is
Yes.
cool. No, yes.
all of this again, it's about the artifact.
You were talking about fairness before, and we all know, if you've read anything about this movie, that it has been very unfair to the filmmakers and to the original actors as well. So to have them involved in this, and we were so inspired when this came out. Then last summer we went to some of the filming locations
Nice.
and actually we both took a little
which are like
piece.
6 hours from us. They're not close.
Yes,
but-
it was a beautiful sunny day. We went to Coffin Rock. We took a little piece of Coffin Rock, both, and then literally the sky opened up and it started like thunder and lightning. It was very much like the Blair Witch does not
The
like
witch
what
gotcha.
you've done.
Yeah, it's been following us around ever since.
Great choice.
All right, and my last pick, fittingly, is a VHS, but it is a VHS that is brand new, like literally been
We
shipped
have it in our
to us
possession yet.
right now, because this is the Lionsgate release of Scream 4 on VHS.
Nice.
And Scream is my favorite horror franchise, one of my favorite movies in general of all time. And of course, 1 through 3 came out on VHS and 4 did not. So now getting access to Scream 4 at the same time on VHS and 4K. So I love what this says about our world of physical media and the way that the demand of consumers, those of us who care about the medium, but also those of us who have the nostalgic connections and want the tape. I love that that's being responded to in a way like this. And sadly, it was limited and sold out very quickly. And they added a few more the next day. And it was very dramatic. But luckily, we got a copy. And again, the fact that there's a VHS and a 4K coming out at the same time is incredible to me. And now I just need 5, 6, and 7 to be on VHS. And I'll be complete.
It's a big deal. I love that this is happening. This is one of my favorite franchises too. Love Scream. Great choice. Solid.
Yeah, they need to do whole new editions with the blue face covers.
Yeah, they should have done that for number 4.
Yeah,
done that
maybe
limited face cover, but
yeah.
with like, what's her name?
Emma Roberts.
Emma Roberts.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be very cute. Yeah. Yeah. So, all right, that's our countdown. It's an incredible list. We could probably count down facets of physical media for all of eternity. But before we go out, what do you want people to do to follow you, to pay attention to you? What do you want them to look for? There's so many places to go. Where do they start?
Okay, apologies in advance because this is a lot. So everywhere on social media, you should be able to follow The Disconnected, Someone's Favorite Productions, The Physical Media Advocate, and Antenna Releasing. We are on all 4 of the social media platforms that I mentioned earlier. Most of those will also have YouTube channels, which will get priority placement of things like live streams and podcast episodes and what have you that are happening all across the board. But the big thing is .com. If you like movies, go sign up for the newsletter there. We have multiple newsletters you can sign up for, whether you're looking for theatrical exhibitions or just home video or trying to figure out when our digital releases happen. We are doing our best to make these unique and fun and exciting. And if after a few movies you catch a feel of our taste, I hope that curation speaks to you and we can find you in a theater loving our films just like we do.
Incredible. Thank you,
Ryan,
for your time.
Thank you. This has been awesome. Thank you.
for joining us.
Be kind. Rewind your childhood.
Thank you for listening. To hear more shows from the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network, please select the link in the description.
Hello, my name is Kevin Tudor, and I'm one of the 3 hosts of Almost Major, a film podcast dissecting many major indie studios and the films they release. Every week, myself, Charlie Nash, and Bryden Doyle discuss overlooked, forgotten, or bona fide classic indie films via studio-specific miniseries. We've previously covered numerous films from Artisan Entertainment, Lionsgate Films, and New Line Cinema. Titles including The Blair Witch Project, American Psycho, Dogville, But I'm a Cheerleader, Saw, Requiem for a Dream, and Ringmaster, you know, the Jerry Springer film. Anyways, we have a fun time every week, and we hope you will join us. Subscribe to Almost Major wherever you get your podcasts. Now proudly a part of the Someone's Favorite Productions Podcast Network.